My parents kicked me out of the house the day I turned 18. You are an adult now, they said. We do not have to support you anymore. My 24-year-old brother just laughed at me. See you never, loser, he said. 3 months later, I received an unexpected inheritance. Now, my parents are calling me non-stop, saying, we have to talk. My name is Thomas Hayes. I am 18 years old, and I always knew I was adopted. My parents, Charles and Monica, never hid it. We chose you, they used to say when I was little. You are special because we picked you. It sounded nice when I was 5. But as I grew up, I started noticing the differences. I noticed the subtle ways they treated me differently than my older brother, Dylan. Dylan was 24. He was their biological son. He was the favorite. And he always had been. When Dylan got good grades, there was a family celebration. A steak dinner, new gadgets, endless praise. When I got good grades, it was just a mumbled, good job, said without looking up from the iPad. When Dylan wanted something, a new car, designer clothes, cash for clubbing, he got it. When I asked for something, it was always, do you really need that? Followed by a long lecture on the value of $1. Dylan had dropped out of college twice. He lived at home at 24 without a job. He spent his days playing video games and hanging out with friends using our parents' credit cards. There was never a single complaint. I had worked part-time since I was 16. I paid for my own gas and clothes. I did all the yard work. And yet, I was always the one who wasn't doing enough. You should be more like Dylan, my father would say. He knows how to enjoy life. Dylan is so smart, my mother would add. He is just waiting for the right opportunity. I was the adoptee. Dylan was the golden child. But I kept trying. I kept seeking their approval, thinking that if I worked hard enough, if I was good enough, they would finally see me as their real son. It never happened. My 18th birthday fell on a Saturday. I had been looking forward to it with some excitement. Despite everything, 18 was a big number. It meant adulthood. I woke up that morning expecting something. Maybe a small cake. A dinner at a restaurant. Just some acknowledgement that it was an important day. I went downstairs and found the whole family eating breakfast. No one said a word. Good morning, I said, waiting. Morning, my mother replied without looking at me, focused entirely on her coffee. Dylan didn't even look up from his phone. My father was scrolling through news on his tablet. Thomas, my father said, when you finish breakfast, I need to speak with you in the living room. Something in his tone made me nervous. I ate quickly, my stomach tying itself into knots. In the living room, I found my 3 family members waiting for me. In the center of the coffee table, there was a large cardboard box. Sit down, my father said. I sat, staring at the box with confusion. Today you turn 18, my father started. Yes, I said, hoping for some kind of happy birthday. Which means you are officially an adult, he continued. We are no longer legally responsible for you. The knot in my stomach tightened. We have talked a lot about this, my mother said. And we have decided it is time for you to leave, to live your own life. What? I asked. Sure, I had heard them wrong. You are an adult, my father said firmly. We do not have to support you anymore. It is time for you to be independent, to take responsibility for yourself. But I don't have anywhere to go, I stuttered, feeling panic rising in my throat. I don't have enough money saved. I don't. That is your responsibility now, not ours, my mother interrupted. She pointed to the box. We packed your things, your clothes, your personal items. Everything is in there. You are kicking me out? I asked, my voice cracking. On my birthday? Don't look at it as kicking you out, my father said. Think of it as us teaching you how to be independent. Something you need to learn. Dylan laughed from the sofa. See you never, loser, he said with a cruel smile. It's about time you got out. This house is way better without you. Dylan, don't be rude, my mother scolded him weakly, but she was smiling too. And Dylan? I asked desperately, pointing at my brother. He is 24. He doesn't work. He lives here for free. Why aren't you kicking him out? Dylan is different, my father said. He is our biological son. He has a right to be here as long as he needs. The words hit me like a physical punch. He is our biological son. As if I wasn't really their son. Please, I begged, feeling tears forming. Just let me stay a little longer. A few months. Just until I can save enough for an apartment. Please. No, my mother said firmly. We have already made the decision. It is time for you to go. But I don't have experience living alone, I shouted. I don't know how things work. Taxes, leases, nothing. I need help. Then you will learn, my father said, standing up. Just like everyone has to learn. Take your box and go. You can't do this, I said. I am your son. You are our adopted son, my mother corrected. And we fulfilled our obligation. We raised you for 18 years. Now, that obligation is over. Exactly, Dylan sneered. Mom and Dad already did their charity work. They don't have to pretend to like you anymore. His words were like knives. They confirmed what I had always suspected. They never really loved me. They were just fulfilling a contract. Go, Thomas, my father said, his tone impatient now. And don't come back. You are not welcome here after today. With shaking hands, I picked up the box. It was heavy, full of my clothes, some books, my personal items, my entire life packed into a cardboard box. I walked toward the door, carrying the box, with tears blurring my vision. I hoped, even in that moment, that someone would stop me, that they would say it was a cruel joke, that they would hug me and tell me to stay. No one did. The last thing I heard before the heavy front door clicked shut behind me was Dylan's laughter. Finally, he said. Now I can use his room for a home gym. I stood on the sidewalk, holding a box with all my worldly possessions, without a family, without a home, with no idea what to do. It was my 18th birthday, and I was completely alone. The first few days were the hardest of my life. I slept in a park for 2 nights, using my box as a pillow, terrified every time I heard a noise. I looked for work desperately. I applied everywhere. Retail stores, fast food joints, warehouses, anything. My experience was limited, and my address was a cheap motel in the worst part of town, which didn't help. After 2 weeks of rejections, I got a job as a server at a diner, minimum wage plus tips. I was making about $1,200 a month. The shifts were 10 hours long on my feet, but it was something. I worked 6 days a week. I lived on $50 a week after paying for my motel room. I ate instant ramen and cheap white bread. I washed my uniform in the bathroom sink. 3 months passed. 3 months without a single call from my adoptive parents. No text asking if I was okay. Nothing. And then, everything changed. It was a normal Tuesday. I had finished my shift at the diner and was walking back to the motel when my phone rang. It was a blocked number. Usually I didn't answer unknown numbers, but something made me pick up this time. Thomas Hayes? A professional voice asked. Yes, that's me, I answered cautiously. My name is Frank Quinn. I am an attorney with Quinn & Associates. Do you have a few minutes to talk? A lawyer. Great. What had I done now? I guess, I said. Mr. Hayes, I represent the estate of your biological parents, Robert and Patricia Campbell. I stopped dead in the middle of the sidewalk. My biological parents? Yes. I am afraid I have some sad news. And some good news. The sad news is that they both passed away in a car accident. I felt something. Not exactly sadness, because I never knew them, but a strange hollowness. The good news, if I can call it that, is that they left a very specific will. You are the sole heir to their estate. What? I asked. Sure, I was hallucinating from hunger. Your biological parents gave you up for adoption when you were born for reasons I cannot divulge, the lawyer explained. However, according to their will, they always kept track of you. They knew where you lived. They knew how you were doing, but they decided not to contact you, to respect your life with your adoptive family. They didn't want to confuse you or cause you pain. Tears started to fall down my face. My biological parents, people I never met, had been watching over me from afar. While my adoptive family despised me, there were 2 people out there who actually cared. In their will, the lawyer continued, they left very clear instructions. Their entire estate goes to you. Their house, their savings, their investments, everything. How much is everything? I asked, my voice trembling. The total estate is valued at approximately $4 million, the lawyer said. The world stopped spinning. $4 million. Yes, Mr. Hayes, your biological father owned a very successful logistics company. Your mother was an architect with several properties. They lived modestly but invested wisely, and it is all yours now. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. $4 million. Me. The guy living on $50 a week. The guy eating ramen every day. The guy sleeping in a room where I could touch both walls if I stretched out my arms. I need you to come to my office to sign some documents, the lawyer continued. Can you come in tomorrow? Yes, I said automatically. Yes, I can. The next day, I went to the lawyer's office and signed the papers, and just like that, I started my new life. With $4 million, the possibilities were endless, but I wasn't reckless. I quit my job at the diner. I didn't need it anymore, but I gave a $500 tip to every single one of my coworkers. They had been kind to me when no one else was. I moved into the house I inherited. It was a beautiful, sprawling estate with a pool, a jacuzzi, and high-end finishes. I enrolled in the local university, something I thought I would never be able to afford. I decided to study business administration, thinking maybe one day I would manage the investments I inherited. I lived quietly for 2 weeks. I enjoyed my new home, my new life, processing everything that had happened. And then, I received the call I was expecting. It was my adoptive father, Charles, the same man who had kicked me out 3 months ago without looking back. Thomas, he said when I answered. His voice was different, softer, almost friendly. What do you want? I asked coldly. We need to talk, he said, your mother and I, and Dylan, about how things ended. We feel that maybe we were too hard on you. I couldn't help but laugh. Really? After 3 months, you think maybe you were too hard? We understand you are upset, he said with that condescending tone I hated. That is why we want to talk. To fix things. Can we meet? I knew exactly why they wanted to talk. Somehow they had found out about my inheritance. I didn't know how, but small towns talk. Fine, I said. You can come to my house. Your house? He asked with surprise. I gave them my new address. There was a long silence on the other end. That is in a very expensive gated community, he said finally. Yes, I said simply. I will see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And I hung up. The next afternoon, exactly at 3, my doorbell rang. I opened the door and found Charles, Monica, and Dylan standing there. Their eyes were wide as saucers as they stared at my foyer. This is your house? Monica asked, unable to hide her shock. Yes, I said. Come in. They walked in slowly, gawking at everything. The high ceilings, the marble floors, the designer furniture, the view of the manicured garden and the pool through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Sit down, I said, pointing to the living room. They sat, still looking around in disbelief. Dylan, especially, looked like he was in shock. So, I said, sitting in a leather armchair opposite them. You said you wanted to talk. Charles cleared his throat. Yes. Well, Thomas, your mother and I have been talking a lot these past few days, and we realized that maybe we were too harsh with you when you turned 18. Too harsh, I repeated without emotion. Yes, Monica continued. We were trying to teach you independence, but perhaps we did it the wrong way. Too fast, too severe. I see, I said. And well, Dylan chimed in with a fake smile. I've been thinking that we never really had a true brotherhood. I'd like to change that. Be real brothers. I looked at the three of them. I saw their plastic smiles, their calculating eyes, the greed barely hidden in their expressions. So, you want me to be part of the family again, I asked? Exactly, Charles said with enthusiasm. You have always been part of the family. We just went through a rough patch. But we can get past it. We can start over, Monica added. Like it always should have been. Interesting, I said, leaning back in my chair. And this sudden reconciliation has nothing to do with the fact that I inherited $4 million 2 weeks ago? The silence was absolute. Their faces went pale. Thomas, that's not what you think, Charles started. No, I interrupted him. My voice was now filled with contained rage. Let me tell you what I think. I stood up. I think that for 18 years I was the second-class son. The adoptee who was never really part of the family. The one who got the scraps while Dylan got the feast. That's not true, Monica tried to say. Shut up, I yelled. For 18 years I listened to you. Now you are going to listen to me. They shrank back into the sofa. You kicked me out on my birthday, I continued, my voice shaking. With no money, no experience, no preparation, you told me I wasn't your problem anymore, that your obligation was over. We were teaching you, Charles started weakly. While Dylan, at 24, was still living here rent-free without a job, I roared. He was 6 years older than me, and you never kicked him out. You never demanded independence from him. Why? Because he is your biological son, and I was just the charity case. We are sorry, Monica said with tears. No, I said firmly. You are not sorry. If you were sorry, you would have called 3 months ago to see if I was okay. To make sure I had a place to sleep. Food. Anything. I glared at them. But you didn't. Not a single call, not a message, nothing. We thought you needed space, Charles tried. You left me on the street, I said, my voice cracking. I slept on the sidewalk for 2 nights. I ate ramen for 3 months. I lived in a roach-infested room where I could hear the neighbors breathing. And you? You never wondered if I was alive or dead. Thomas. Dylan tried to speak. And you? I turned to him. You laughed at me. You called me a loser. You said you could finally use my room as a gym. Now you want to be my brother, now that I have cash? Dylan didn't answer, looking at the floor. So here's my answer, I said with cold calm. No. I am not going to be part of your family again. Because you were never my real family. You were just the people who raised me out of obligation. And the moment that legal obligation ended, you threw me away like trash. There was a long silence. Charles finally spoke, his tone now less friendly, more desperate. Okay, he said. We understand you don't want to come back to the family. But Thomas, you could at least help us financially. After all we did for you for 18 years. We raised you. We fed you. We gave you a roof. You want money? I asked with disbelief. The economy has been tough, Charles admitted. We have debts. The mortgage is behind. We are in financial trouble. We just need some monthly help, something small. $3,000 a month? Maybe? After all, you have millions. You wouldn't even miss it. I laughed. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. You are asking me for money? Money? After kicking me out without a penny? Thomas, please, Dylan pleaded. We're family. No, I said with finality. You are not my family. My family was Robert and Patricia. 2 people I never met but who loved me from afar. Who left me everything they had. Who cared about me without even being there. That was my real family. You can't leave us like this, Charles said, panic setting in. Of course I can, I said. Just like you left me on the street on my birthday. Just like you told me I wasn't your problem. Now, you are not my problem. I walked to the front door and threw it open. Now get out, and don't come back. I don't want you in my house. I don't want you in my life. You made your decision 3 months ago, I told them. Now you have to live with the consequences. You are going to regret this, Dylan yelled, finally showing his true face as he stood up. When you need family, we won't be there. Perfect, I said calmly. Because I don't need people like you. Out of my house. Now. They walked out. Charles and Monica were crying. Dylan looked furious. I slammed the door behind them and locked the deadbolt. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. Today, 6 months after that meeting, my life is completely different. I am in my 2nd semester of college, and my grades are excellent. I have made real friends, people who appreciate me for who I am, not for what I have. I heard through the grapevine that Charles and Monica ended up selling their house to pay their debts. They moved into a small apartment. Dylan had to get a job for the first time in his life. Sales or something. He hates it. Do I feel bad? No. Not at all. They tried to call me a few more times. I sent them one simple text. I lost your number. Please do not contact me again. And I blocked them permanently. I also visited the graves of Robert and Patricia Campbell, my biological parents. I brought them flowers. I spoke to them, even though they weren't there to listen. Thank you, I told the headstones, for loving me when no one else did, for giving me this chance, for watching over me. I made them a promise. I am going to use what they left me to live the life I deserve. And I am keeping that promise. I am living well, not extravagantly, but comfortably. I am building a future. I have goals. I have dreams. Sometimes I think about what my life would be like if I had never received that inheritance. I would probably still be in that horrible motel, working double shifts, barely surviving. But the inheritance wasn't just money. It was validation. It was knowing that there were people who truly wanted me, who considered me valuable, who thought I deserved better. That is something no amount of money can buy. Now I live in a beautiful home, I am getting an education, and I have a bright future ahead of me. And best of all, I am completely, absolutely free. The family that rejects you does not deserve your success, and the success you build without them is the sweetest of all.